I was in a car coming back from an away game down the M1, I think it was down the M1. And a friend of mine was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and two men shorter than us were in the back, short. So that's what happens. Short guys go in the back, and one of the short guys was asleep, and we were just, kind of when traffic's really annoying and the motorways, there's been a spillage or something, or a lorry, and we were just, just going along really slowly in traffic, and I was just looking out the side window, and I saw this kind of this bright light that seemed to be hovering about the size of like a dustbin lid. About half a meter across in diameter, and it was just kind of hovering and sort of moving. This kind of dish of light was sort of moving, and it had really bright light emanating from it. It almost seemed to be like being supported by light from the ground, but then it had light all around it as well. And then it moved like this, sort of moving like really. It was strange. It was like, when you see things in those water parks that are supported by water, like on a jet of water. It's kind of like, yes, that's a good. It was kind of like that, but with light. Anyway, it sort of did that for about, I don't know, a minute, just going around, because we were just stationary. I was looking at maybe 30 seconds. These things can seem longer. And then, poof, it just shot off into space like the fastest thing I have ever seen I've never seen anything move so quickly. It was insane. And I turned to my friend Ben, who was driving. I just said, and at this point, I can tell you now, the language was a little bit stronger than what I'm going to use now.
Yes.
But I said, what the flip was that? And he said, I don't flipping know. What the flip was that? We're just going, what the flip?
Not a drone.
And we were just freaked out. And then my mate Mick has poked his head between the seats, and he's just gone, what the flip? And it was insane. And the three of us for a while didn't talk about it, too much. On the podcast, there's a bonus where I talked to my friend Ben, who now lives in America, and he put a chat much like this, although I couldn't see myself as thumb like this. It was just a little picture, and we discussed it, and we haven't discussed it, I'm not kidding, for 20 years, and his account was exactly the same as mine. It was quite gratifying. I got him on the phone. We spoke about it. He moved there years ago. I speak to him occasionally, but not about that. And all I'd said to him on the phone is, can we talk about that thing? And my producer was like, wow.
I find it really interesting because everyone here in studio, I think we're all going, it was a drone, Johnny, but then you said this is 20 years ago, before kind of we had that sort of...
No, this wasn't. This was light. And it's much too fast. I know the difference. It was right by the car. It's about 6 foot from the car. And here's the funny thing, right? Here's the funny thing. Whatever the experience was, it was an alien experience. It was not of this earth. It was outside my experience. So you could call that metaphysical. But there's a paradox here. There's a paradox. And the contradiction that makes sense in this case, what's paradoxical, is that you speak to most people and they will say, do you believe there is alien life somewhere out there? And most people, if they're quite sane, will say, yes, I do believe that out there somewhere there is alien life. But as soon as someone says, I've got proof, we're like, oh, yeah, right. We believe everything about, we believe in aliens right until someone has an encounter with one, And the only parallel I sort of have with that is almost religious, where people can believe in God or a higher being until someone says they've had a conversation with Jesus, and they were like, whoa, or I talked to angels, and then suddenly we're really skeptical, and yet loads of people believe in God and a higher power until you actually encounter it, and then we're like, he was drunk, he was on drugs, it was probably lightning. It must have been a drone. It was probably the shadow off a building. It was a statue in the background. Suddenly we've got all these reasons. But what I saw, and what the lads did as well, and the 6 people I interview in this show, they all know what they saw. And
the thing is,
I know I'm not lying.
For people in the first episode, you talk to someone who met his future self and chose his mother. It is honestly fascinating. The podcast is called Alien Kidnap Club.